It's fight week, guys. Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, UFC 257. Nick and I are breaking down the main card and giving our predictions right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo, yo.
We have a great fight card this weekend, guys. Nick, it is a Conor McGregor fight week. It's been almost a year since we've had one of those. They don't happen all that often these days, but we certainly cherish them when they do happen.
Yeah, for sure. And as a fan, you want to see him as active as possible, and you want to see him in there every weekend if you can. But when there's a long delay and you don't get him for several weeks or several months, it actually, you know, makes you anticipate it and want it even more every time it comes around.
It's the simple rule of supply and demand.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of demand for Conor McGregor fights. The supply is a bit limited these days.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
We enjoy them when we see them. This is actually a really good fight card. There's a great main event, obviously. Everybody knows Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, the rematch. What more needs to be said there? But there's a great 155 matchup in the co-main event slot that I think was largely put on the card just to ensure that nothing funny happened and that the main event, at least 50% of the main event, was still able to remain intact should something weird happen, a COVID diagnosis, an injury, a pullout, a missed weight, you name it. So you have Michael Chandler and Dan Hooker, and this is our first look at Michael Chandler in the UFC against one of the best that the division has to offer. And so this is a very good fight card.
Yeah, well, and it looks like moving day kind of at the 155 division. You know, you see the top 6 or so fighters at 155, and all of these guys are in it.
Yep.
And I know Michael Chandler hasn't fought yet, but he is definitely one of the new guys at the top of the division. Could only be 1 or 2 fights away from a title fight, which is really impressive. And usually when you have a fight that gets placed on a card just in case you need a little insurance and you don't want somebody to pull out and then you lose a huge main event. It's somebody a little bit further back in the queue.
Right.
Maybe it's maybe 2 top 10 guys, but not quite top 5 guys. This is really cool because it's kind of like an unofficial tournament at 155.
Right.
And everybody's going to be looking to perform at their very best because they know there's some unwritten answers as far as that belt goes. And Khabib has said, you know, if somebody really impresses me, maybe I'll come back. But if not, the UFC eventually is going to get along with it. And whoever looks the best coming out of this weekend, I think cements themselves a spot in the next available title shot at 155.
Yeah, and this is absolutely Michael Chandler's biggest stage yet. I mean, he's the co-main event on a Conor card. What better way to introduce yourself to the UFC fan base? One of the funniest things that I've realized through doing this show with you is that a lot of people who comment and watch our videos are very, very familiar with the UFC. They even know certain fighters and have stats on them that we don't even know.
Right.
But not very many people are familiar with or even really tune into a lot of the Bellator stuff.
Yeah.
So Chandler, although, you know, we like Bellator, we have a few friends that fight in Bellator, so we watch a lot of the Bellator stuff. And so we're very familiar with Michael Chandler, but we can't just take it for granted that everybody who's a fan of the UFC and watches all of the UFC product is going to have Michael Chandler as a household name. So this is a chance for him to come out and really establish himself.
Yeah, he's not truly on the radar for a lot of fight fans and people that are they're diehard fight fans, but they don't know about Bellator all that much. And Bellator does a good job of promoting the fights that they have, but I don't know if Bellator promotes the brand of Bellator enough. I see a lot of people that, you know, still look at MMA as UFC fighting. And
right.
It's one of those things like
it's
Kleenex,
synonymous with the name.
It's chapstick, you know, stuff like that.
Literally, when we tell people that we train jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, they're like, oh, you guys do UFC fighting.
Right.
It's like, well, not really, but yeah.
We train all the
How
things.
Much time you have for a conversation. But yeah, basically, yes. The short answer is yes.
Long story short, yes. Long story short, no. But yeah, a lot of people are really into mixed martial arts, but they don't know about Bellator. And if you're not paying attention to the you know, your cable provider, maybe you miss the cards and you have no idea that they're on there. You even see Bellator on the TV guide, and you don't know what that means, and maybe you just browse right over it. But when you see those 3 letters UFC next to each other, you know exactly what you're in store for. And I think Michael Chandler has always felt like he's a top lightweight or just a competitor in the sport in general. But now he gets to actually prove it. He gets to actually prove to himself, kind of like the Ryan Garcia thing.
Yeah.
Like, he had been beating people, and I think he really proved to himself in his last fight against Luke Campbell that he's a legit boxer, one of the top in the world. I think Michael Chandler, if he can win against Dan Hooker, is really going to prove something to himself and show that, yeah, I do belong here.
Yep.
I am one of the best 55ers on the planet.
Yeah, and he's coming off of a knockout win against Benson Henderson, who, oh, by the way, was the 155 champion at one point in the UFC.
A different Benson Henderson, but still a UFC champion at some point.
Nonetheless. And so let's not get too far ahead here. Let's start at the top of the main card and then work our way up to the main event. So opening up the pay-per-view card, the main card, we have Mariana Rodriguez against Amanda Rebus. Now, Amanda Rebus is the biggest favorite on this card, slightly edging out Conor McGregor. You have a feeling that she's one of those ones that the UFC is trying to promote. She's got a lot of momentum. She most recently submitted Paige Van Zandt and sent her on her merry way to bare knuckle boxing. She's got a lot of skills. She's beat Mackenzie Dern. She's beat Ronda Marcos. She's going to be taking on Mariana Rodriguez. Her only loss was a split decision loss. Rodriguez's only loss was a split decision to Carla Esparza. And then she fought Cynthia Calvillo to a draw. Everything else has pretty much been a win. She's a pretty sizable underdog, plus 250 to minus 325 for Rebus. Do you think the odds makers got this one right?
I do. And I think that the UFC is doing all the right things with Amanda Rebus. I think she does have star potential, and she could definitely be somebody that is worth investing some time and money and effort into. I think the way that the UFC lets you know that they are getting behind your character, your shtick, they want to see you succeed, is putting you on a Conor McGregor card.
Yep.
And a lot of fight fans, it's expensive to be a fight fan, especially pay-per-views, but a lot of people save up those extra few bucks to buy a Conor McGregor card. And when that happens, they make sure they get every bit of the card out of it. So they're going to be sure when if it starts at 8 p.m., click. 8 p.m. rolls around, they're going to be watching the first fight. Even if they don't know who they are, they're going to learn a little something. And I think it speaks loudly how the UFC feels about Amanda Rebus, because there's going to be a lot of eyes on her, more eyes than usual. And if she can rise to the occasion, I think this will be a really good night for her.
Yeah, she's got 7 finishes, 3 KOs, 4 subs, really nice mix. She's young. She's like I said, she just submitted Paige Van Zandt.
Had a good 2020.
She did, and I think she's going to ride that momentum to a decision victory over Rodriguez. Rodriguez, like I said, she's only got 1 loss in her career, and it was a split decision loss, 2 draws. She's tough as nails. Very hard to finish, especially at that weight class. So I'm going to call Rebus decision 29-28, possibly 39, or possibly 30-27.
Yeah, I think Rebus gets her hand raised. I do think that she's an intense fighter, and maybe she will be able to get a finish, but it's going to be a tough fight. She's going to gain some experience and go a couple rounds. I think maybe second round she gets some sort of a TKO stoppage from some sort of ground and pound or something.
Cool. So I'm calling decision. You got TKO stoppage both for Amanda Rebus. Now, moving on to a fight that seems like it's going to not be going to the judges' scorecard. We have Matt Fravola versus Ottoman Azitar.
Oh, yeah.
Ottoman is just an absolute stud, man. 13-0, 10 KOs, 2 subs.
Yeah.
The guy's only needed the judges 1 time in his career. He's going to be taking on Matt Fravola. Matt is 8-1. However, he's only got 1 KO and 3 subs. Has defeated Luis Pena, and he fought to a draw against Lando Venata. So we know if you can fight to a draw against Venata, you at least deserve to be there. But this one feels like Ottoman Azitar. He most recently knocked out Karma Worthy in September. Like I said, he's got almost a 90. He does have a 90% finish ratio, undefeated. He's a slight favorite, minus 160 to plus 130. Quite frankly, I'm surprised the odds are even this close. What do you think about this fight?
Yeah, this one could be one of the biggest not upsets, but the biggest differences in as far as I see the odds makers. I really thought that Ottoman would be a little bit higher up as far as this one goes. Obviously, if you're able to get wins over Pena and Groovy Venata, you belong there, and you need to step up in competition. But I think Fravola's going to have his hands full, and Ottoman he just seems like a sharp fighter, and I think there's a lot to be said for somebody that has the kind of knockout ratio, finish ratio that he has, and I think he continues that streak, gets another nice finish. I'm going to go another TKO stoppage round 2.
Yeah, I think Ottoman gets the job done. I think he's
Yeah.
going to come out guns a-blazing. He's going to be looking for the finish early, and he's going to get it early.
Yeah.
I'm calling first round KO.
Yeah,
Ottoman, Azitar.
Fravola's tough, so I think once he gets cracked, he will get to the ground, and then there'll be some scramble. But all in all, I think he gets finished in one of those types of exchanges.
Yeah, and this is that fight too that like if you're looking for some good odds, that I think is a pretty surefire win. I think Ottoman is going to win this fight, and I think that's going to be a pretty decisive. It's going to be a decisive win. So.
Maybe don't look at the parlays on this week's cards.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So moving on now, Jessica Ai is taking on JoJo Calderwood.
Yeah.
Both great fighters, both now in their mid-30s. Jessica's 34, JoJo is 35. Jessica is sort of a 500 fighter since her KO loss to Valentino Chavchinko. She's 1-1. She lost to Cynthia Calvillo in June. You have JoJo, who has been 1-2 in her last 3 fights. Only won a split decision. Was her only victory in the last 3 fights. This kind of feels like both of these women, obviously Jessica Ai fought for the belt. JoJo was going to fight for the belt. She decided to take on a tough fight in the interim, got submitted. She showed a lot of toughness and heart for doing that. But this kind of feels like at 34 and 35, both of these women this is going to be a very career-defining moment for the winner and for the loser. It's going to kind of, the winner might have one more run and one more path to the title shot. The loser probably not.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. I do feel like both the fighters' backs are against the wall. JoJo Calderwood is one of the most skillful strikers and one of the most skillful fighters, really, at 125.
Yep.
And, you have to give her credit. I will always appreciate and respect a fighter like her that he doesn't want to wait around for the champ, decides to roll the dice, take on the number 1 contender in Jennifer Maia, who wound up giving us a great fight. I mean, it wasn't all that competitive against Valentino, but, JoJo stepped in and did some heavy lifting. It didn't go her way, but I think that she realizes that she has the skills. If she can just hone it in, her back's up against the wall, she seems like a real dog, in my opinion, and she could fight her way out of these types of situations, and she has the skills to piece Jessica Ai apart. I think what we're going to see is a very calculated JoJo Calderwood. If she comes out flat-footed and a little bit less confident than she has in the past, then it's going to be kind of an ugly fight that goes to the decision, and I don't think anybody's stock goes up all that much. But I do think that JoJo Calderwood was only 1 fight away from fighting for a title, decided to do the heavy lifting. Like I said, it didn't go her way, but she still has those skills, and I think she does have one more shot at running towards a title. I've got JoJo Calderwood winning a decision, but a unanimous decision, 30-27.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I also have JoJo winning. This is a very close fight as far as odds go. It's basically a pick on minus 110 for I, minus 120 for JoJo. The reason I have Calderwood is because she is a more crisp, precise striker. And one thing we've seen with Jessica Ai is she does get hit a fair amount. Yeah. She's tough as nails, and she comes forward. And Jessica Ai is a very entertaining fighter. Actually, I enjoy watching her fights. But she does expose herself to being hit by a crisp striker. Yeah. Perfect example is the head kick knockout to Valentina. I don't think JoJo's going to have an emphatic head kick knockout, but I do think she is going to win a 30-27 decision. I think she's going to control the octagon. I think she's going to engage on her terms, and I think she's going to land the majority of the exchanges in all 3 rounds and sail her way to a unanimous decision victory.
Yeah, she's good at fighting off her back foot and moving backwards and stuff like that. And I think that Jessica Ai has she's a tenacious fighter, and she likes to come forward and bring the fight and stuff like that, but she doesn't have quite the skills to take somebody down at will like she needs to.
Right.
And I think that's going to lend to her getting hit, and then it's going to slow her down. And then JoJo's going to look good in the first round. I think she's going to look a little bit better and come second and third.
JoJo's kryptonite seems to be a really good pressure grappler, which is what happened in the Jennifer Maia fight. You know, she just wasn't able to handle, once she was on the ground, being able to escape and reestablish a standing position against a much superior grappler, and she paid the price for it. But Jessica Ai is not that's not within her skill set to do that. So
Right.
I think this is going to be largely a striking match, and I think it heavily favors JoJo.
And it goes without question that Conor has the coolest accent on the entire card, probably in the entire UFC. But
I don't know. JoJo's got a good
JoJo
one.
Calder was a close second, in my opinion, right
Oh,
now.
and if you, by the way, just as a side note, if you guys have not seen the YouTube video of JoJo Calderwood impersonating Nate Diaz doing the Conor McGregor call out that he did, you can thank me later. Go check that out.
It's fantastic. Go check that out.
But yeah, okay, so moving on to the co-main event now. We've got Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker. As I said, the much-awaited debut, rather, of Michael Chandler. Dan Hooker, absolutely no slouch. Dan Hooker is the favorite in this fight, minus 130. Chandler's pretty much even money. You bet $1, you get $1.
Yeah.
As I said, Chandler's last fight was against Benson Henderson. He knocked him out. He's defeated Eddie Alvarez. He's got multiple UFC 155 champions as notches on his belt, on his resume. Dan Hooker, he's got 10 KOs, 7 subs. His he went on a 3-fight win streak. Before that loss to Poirier, it was James Vick, Al Iaquinta, and then Paul Felder.
Yeah.
So
Studs.
Absolute stud. The Poirier fight, I think Poirier won it, but if you gave it to Dan Hooker, I wouldn't be mad at you.
Yeah.
So Dan Hooker is certainly a very tough test to welcome Michael Chandler to the division. I know we cut a video on just this fight specifically, and we both picked Dan Hooker to win this fight. Has your opinion since then changed?
No, and I think the people's opinion is that Michael Chandler's the favorite, but the betting odds are saying that Dan Hooker's the favorite. So I guess I understand that, and I kind of side with the bettors, with the Vegas odds. But a lot of people have this momentum going in with Michael Chandler. The ones that do know about him know how good he is, and Dan Hooker knows how good he is. He respects the talent. But Dan Hooker's been there. He's been in the UFC. He's done this walk, and I know. Michael Chandler got a dress rehearsal, got a dry run with the UFC, but it's getting ready, making weight, and all that stuff. Going out to Fight Island is one thing. Doing all that and having a fight is a totally other thing. And I think Dan Hooker is the perfect matchup for Michael Chandler's debut in the UFC. Everybody was talking about maybe he'll jump right in with Tony Ferguson, and that's before Tony Ferguson lost to Oliveira, and everybody was like, he was still the boogeyman.
Right.
Not that he's not one of the scariest fighters in the world still, but a little bit of that steam, that edge has gone away from Tony Ferguson. And for me, it felt like they were catapulting Chandler a little bit too far and thinking that he should take on Tony Ferguson at the end of last year. It made so much sense that they made the Dan Hooker fight. It seemed to me like everybody was kind of lined up with dance partners. Khabib was tied up with Gaethje. Conor and Poirier, we kind of had a feeling this was going to be taking place. And then it seemed like Dan Hooker was just the only one left out. And I think that it makes the most sense that they booked this fight. Dan Hooker is a true test. He's a true top contender at 155. And I think Michael Chandler's going to absolutely have his hands full in his debut.
Yeah, so I'm gonna surprise you a little bit here. My opinion has changed.
Yeah.
I no longer think that Dan Hooker is gonna win this fight.
Really?
I still think it's gonna be a very close fight. I thought it was gonna be a close fight to begin with. Still do. Michael Chandler looks like he's very well prepared for this fight. I was watching the embeddeds. He said, this is my second run at this. In October, I went there. I stayed at the same hotel in Abu Dhabi. I prepared for Khabib. This feels familiar to me because it is familiar to me. As I said, he has beaten multiple UFC champions before. At 34 years old, he realizes the UFC has brought me in here for a reason. I'm here for a good time, not for a long time. I think Chandler's well prepared, and I think he's going to get the job done. I think he's going to be able to get either a late stoppage in the third round, or he's going to be able to dominate with his strength and size, because he does look jacked for this fight. I mean, he looks like a monster, better than I've ever. Michael Chandler's always been bodied up.
Right.
He looks even better now than ever. And I'm just going to go with the whole, it seems like when a fighter who's really highly touted from another organization, you have to follow me on this, comes to the UFC, they win their first fight. What happens thereafter, it depends.
Yeah.
Ben Askren, he came over, highly touted, fought Robbie Lawler, won the fight, and probably the most bizarre fight I've ever seen, but won nonetheless. Justin Gaethje, when he comes over to the UFC, First fight, he wins it. I'm going exactly. I'm going with the same narrative. Michael Chandler, another organization into the UFC, highly touted, gets his hand raised.
How does he get his hand raised?
Third round stoppage.
Oh, wow.
Third round stoppage.
See, I see this one being fight of the night. This has fight of the night written all over because Dan Hooker's an entertaining fighter, and he's tough as nails, so he's going to last in there. But he's also down to throw, and he lands a lot of shots he throws. I think that we might see performance of the night later on in the evening in the main event, but we're going to see fight of the night probably as far as the main card goes. Going to wind up in that co-main slot. I think this goes the distance. I think Michael Chandler gets some good experience, but I do think that Dan Hooker gets the win through a tough decision over Michael Chandler.
Cool.
And could even be a split decision.
Could be. This is a hard fight to call, actually.
Yeah, because we don't know how he fares with the UFC. It's weird, but there's a lot of Bellator guys train with a lot of UFC guys, and so you would have to understand that they're probably all on the same level, but there's a little bit of a difference, and we don't know if Michael Chandler is what we assume he is, and we do know Dan Hooker's training with the best of the best in the world, not just the best teammates, but the best coaches, and
arguably the best fighter in the world right now.
Yeah.
In Adesanya.
Yeah, I'm sure he's been getting some good rounds, good advice. Volkanovski has a very similar build to Michael Chandler, a little bit smaller, but still has that same kind of build. I bet you.
That's a good point. You're making me second guess myself here, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
I'm sticking with Chandler.
You've already flip flopped.
I can't flip flop again. I can't do it again.
No, yeah. So I'm going to stick with Hooker. I think we're going to see a great fight fight of the night, and it goes to a decision, maybe a split decision win for Hooker.
I did not think of the Volkanovski. That does make a difference. Yeah. A short, strong, stout guy with
that used to be 240 pounds. So he,
I'm not doing it. I'm sticking with Chandler. Yeah. Chandler's going to win. He's going to win by third round stoppage.
Good call.
I think he's got too much riding on this. He's focused, he's prepared, and he wants to prove that, as he said in the build up, I'm the best 155er on the planet. Now I have my opportunity to prove it.
But it's kind of like Dan Hooker's kind of in the position that Floyd Mayweather was in, because when you're in the UFC, you're held at the highest regard.
Yep.
When Conor went in to fight Floyd Mayweather, the world of boxing was on Floyd's shoulders. If Floyd loses to this guy, then boxing's not a real sport.
Right.
And it kind of feels like if you're in the UFC and a new guy comes in, you're fighting on behalf of the UFC.
Yep.
So Dan Hooker feels the pressure of, okay, I better perform, because we've told everybody all along, and everybody agrees, that the UFC's the top, the creme de la creme of all fight promotions, and then it's everybody else competing for next best. But I just feel like Dan Hooker's going to perform. He's going to put on for the UFC, and he's going to show them that there's just another element of difficulty when it comes to competing at the highest level of the UFC.
It's the big leagues.
Yeah, this is the big leagues.
Speaking of the big leagues, drum roll, please.
Yeah, the biggest league.
Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, the rematch. Conor McGregor, second biggest favorite on the card, only to Amanda Rebus. Mm-hmm. He's a minus 315 favorite against a plus 245 underdog in Dustin. And guys, we actually did a whole video, like a 20-something minute video breaking down this fight, giving our predictions. I'll link to that video in the description, and if you want a more full, in-depth breakdown of this fight and what we think it means and what could happen thereafter, so you can check that out. Yeah. But just to make it quick, we both picked McGregor to win that fight in emphatic fashion. Has anything changed since that video for you?
No, and I still hold on to the early firefight that's going to take place. Conor does say that he would like to go a few more rounds, because let's face it, in 2020, January 2020, he only went 40 seconds with Cowboy.
Right.
So he is looking to kind of get a little bit more time in the octagon and get a little bit more feel of fighting and maybe bleed a little bit. But, he said that he feels he will land a cleaner shot sooner on Dustin in this go round. And not to say that he didn't have a crisp knockout of Dustin 6 years ago, but it was a odd shot that landed, and it was a great shot, but it wasn't
kind of behind the ear
right. It wasn't his most precise, beautiful knockout. And I think that he wants to one up himself as far as beating Dustin. I do think that Dustin's going to come out gung-ho, which is not going to play into his favor. I think the best chance Dustin has to win, like we said before, was to drag this into the later rounds where we've seen Conor, kind of wither out a little bit and gas out as the fight goes on. Like we said, nobody fights as well in the first round as Conor McGregor, but nobody gasses out quite as much as Conor come round 3, 4, and 5. That's what I would do if I was Dustin Poirier. It seems like they have other plans in mind. He said within 60 seconds they're both going to be bleeding. I think if they go with that plan and Conor has the plan to take him out in 60 seconds, that we're going to see a first-round finish for Conor McGregor. And it is Mystic Max predicting it. I truly think that this is the start of a crazy year for Conor McGregor, and he matches up dangerously with everybody at 155. And with Khabib out of the way, it's hard to not see a scenario where Conor's not the champion at some point this year.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And I agree with everything you just said. Dustin Poirier's biggest advantage that he's going to have in this fight is getting it to rounds 4 and 5, because we know Conor really tends to fade as the fight goes on.
Yeah.
As we talked about, he's a very fast twitch fighter. He's a very explosive fighter. He looks for the knockout. And as they say, if you go for the knockout, don't expect to win the decision. So Dustin's best chance is dragging this into rounds 4 and 5. Do I think he's going to be able to effectively do that? No, I do not. Conor McGregor knocked him out once before. No matter what Dustin says, he is a different fighter now. I agree with him. I don't disagree with that. So is Conor.
Yeah.
Conor's a hell of a lot more powerful now than he was back then. He's got a much bigger stature. He seems very prepared for this. He's lasered in. Poirier is a good matchup for Conor because Poirier is going to come forward. Conor's a precise striker. I wouldn't say he's a counter striker. He does counter strike very well, but he does put the pressure on very well too.
Yeah.
But somebody who's willing to engage in a firefight with Conor is his best opponent.
Yeah.
And I think that Dustin Poirier is not going to go down as easy as Cowboy Cerrone did. That's why I'm going to say it's going to be a second-round knockout. Dustin's going to get through the first round. He's going to land a few shots on Conor, not do any serious damage. Conor's going to land a big shot at the end of the first round that wobbles Dustin, doesn't finish him, and then he's going to close the show in the second round with the left hand. Famous McGregor left hand.
Yeah, that's I would be willing to bet that could be what happens, but I just think that instead of it being a strategic, calculated bout from start to finish, it's going to be a wild fight for as long as it lasts. And I just think that Conor's going to get it done TKO first round.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, guys. So that's it for our predictions. UFC 257. Just to recap, we both picked Amanda Rebus. We both picked Ottoman Azitar. We both have JoJo Calderwood winning the decision. We differed on the co-main. I flipped my pick and went with Michael Chandler. You went with Dan Hooker, even though you laid out some very good points that probably should have made me change my decision. I am not going to. And then obviously the notorious one, Conor McGregor by knockout.
Yeah.
You picked first round. I picked second round. Guys, let us know in the comments. Do you agree with those picks? Do you disagree with those picks? We love having debate and discussion with you guys, so keep the good comments coming. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on audio where you listen to podcasts.
One last thing. Happy birthday to Dustin the Diamond Poirier. I know I'm a day late, but he's celebrating in Fight Island, so that's a pretty cool thing.
That's it. Cut and wait for your birthday. So not the most fun, but
he'll get to enjoy
good Lord if he beats Conor, which I don't think he will. That'll be the birthday present of all time.
Yeah, and he'll enjoy that carrot cake they made for him on Fight Island.
That's for sure. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Peace.